Hello and good afternoon, teacups. Welcome back to Spill the Tea Lou. Welcome back to Teacup Castle. And before we get stuck into any transfer news, before we get stuck into anything else at all, I would like to welcome all of our fantastic new teacups. Between yesterday, over the last 24 hours, we have gone up by over 50 teacups. 56 new teacups have joined the tea party here at Teacup Castle. The vast majority of those have come from Footy Judge Mo and Paz the creator. So thank you very, very much to all of the lovely new teacups that have joined us. It is very wonderful to have you here at Teacup Castle. Thank you so much, guys, for helping me break the barrier that was 1,000 subscribers. We have now hit 1,000 subscribers at Teacup Castle. Thank you guys so much. I didn't think we would hit 1,000 till like Christmas. I was hoping to get to like 900 before the season started, and we've absolutely smashed that to smithereens. So thank you all so much. The guys who have been with me from the start, the guys who have been with me during the journey, joined me through the summer, because bloody hell, to join me out of season is spectacular. And to those who have joined, as I said, in the last 24 hours, you're all sensational and most welcome here at Teacup Castle. So thank you so much. And before we get into even more stuff, we do also have to thank some of our returning teacups, some of our most reliable teacups, the teacups that keep the channel going. Rob Always United, all boxed up, unboxing us and getting the Bravo Foxy into the chat. So massive shout out to All Boxed Up and to Rob Always United as well, getting their super chats into the chat. Very much appreciated. Very, very much appreciated by me. I love doing this, guys. I love doing this more than you can possibly imagine. I adore just talking. I would talk all the time. I know I hide it well. I would just talk all the time if I could. So to be able to do it and like earn money from that is just incredible. And I can't put into words how grateful I am. So thank you all so very, very much. But now that we've done all the thank yous, now that we've done all the welcomes, we've rolled out the red carpet, I am going to say hello to the chat, and then we're going to start discussing the news. And guys, today is the day, the return of Lou and Kai. Prepare yourselves. Those who have joined us throughout the summer that maybe never saw the Lou and Kai show, the Predictor show, guys, really and truly, it's mayhem on a stick. And not in like a nasty rage baity banter way, in a we can't string a conversation together way because we're two messes. So very, very excited for that. Thank you so much to Mama Flossie, who says, congratulations on reaching this milestone, Lou. Well done, girl. And I can hear it in Mama Flossie's accent. For those that are new to the channel, Mama Flossie has appeared on the show before. If you want to see Mama Flossie's appearance on Spill the Tea Lou, it is in the playlist for Lou and guests. So Mama Flossie's in there. So for those that have joined new to the channel that know Mama Flossie but that don't, she has appeared on the channel before. We had a special celebrity appearance with Mama Flossie, so we did. Last season, I think that was. So thank you so very much to Mama Flossie, who is not only a mod extraordinaire, but a very wonderful friend who is always there to give me a pep talk when I need it and to tell me when I'm talking nonsense. So thank you so very much to Mama Flossie as well, because you have been sensational. Sensational. I don't know if I'd have made it this far without you. Dan has joined us. Hello to Dan. Welcome to the chat. Yes, Mohammed, 1K. Footy Judge Mo, Paz the creator, sent some subscribers our way yesterday. So shout out to both of them. I actually felt like quite full circle because Footy Judge Mo was the first channel to ever raid me, like to send a live raid my way, and was then actually the person that got me to over 1,000 subscribers. So Footy Judge Mo out there smashing it, supporting the small creators out there. So thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. You did, Mohammed, say it would happen before August. I didn't believe you. I thought you were crazy. But yeah, we did it, guys. Can't believe it. So now that I'm done tooting my own horn and giving myself all the praise, let us talk about the transfers, okay? So The first ones, obviously some of these come out yesterday, but as I didn't do an evening show because I was on Footy Judge Mo, having discussions, having rants, having heated debates, I didn't do an evening show yesterday, so we're talking about it all today. We'll get through as much as we possibly can in the build-up to the Lou and Kai show. I'm so excited, guys. I'm absolutely buzzed. All Box Stuff says, Lou, our free-to-air non-stop chatterbox. Yeah, that's all well and good when you can turn me off. Imagine having to live with me. Imagine what Boffman has to go through every day of his life. I talk like this all the time. This much. All of it. Mohammed, 4 months a T-Titan. 4 months a T-Titan. Incredible work by Mohammed. And can I just say, right, Mohammed is a Liverpool fan. I'm a United fan. This is the wonderful example of how you can just have a conversation and not be an a-hole. And it works wonderfully. So shout out, Mohammed. 4 months. 4 months. Woohoo. And thank you very much for renewing, obviously, the lifeblood of Teacup Castle. Thank you so much. Flossie says, no wonder he goes fishing. I do think that's a part of it. Fishing's quite peaceful compared to our house. Godfrey has joined us as well. Welcome to Godfrey. Right. The first story, we are going to talk about football. I swear to God, we're going to talk about football today. The first story is Tottenham try to accelerate today for a double deal involving Omar Marmoush and Savinho. The plan for Spurs remains 2 wingers, Gakpo and Savinho, plus a striker deal on. Pedro Neto, backup option only if Savinho doesn't join. So that's from Fabrizio. David Ornstein also come out, this was all yesterday, by the way, and said Tottenham Hotspur are working on a double deal to sign Savinho and Omar Marmoush from Manchester City. Tottenham Hotspur aiming to land both 22-year-old Brazil winger and 27-year-old Egypt forward as key targets to strengthen the attack. Not done, but talks with Manchester City are advancing. And I do actually want to give a massive shout out to Ben Jacobs because he has had a very mixed summer. I know he sort of has mixed reception from a lot of fans in terms of reliability and the whole shebang, but we spoke about this Marmoush to Spurs, maybe 2 weeks ago we spoke about this. It was very loose at the time. We didn't know if anything was going to happen with it. It was very, very sort of initial sort of speculation at the time. But it was Ben Jacobs who had put out the story at the time. It was also Ben Jacobs was the only journalist this summer that linked Man United to Baleba. Every other journalist said it was old interest from last summer. There was no new updates, no new contacts, and it wasn't really on the table. It was residual interest. So I have to be fair, while he does sometimes miss, he also hits, right? So he got it with Baleba if that goes over the line. Even if it doesn't, there was actual genuine interest this summer. We've supposedly put in an official offer. So he's got it there. And he was the first one I saw talking this summer about Marmoush to Spurs. So we do have to give him the credit where it's due. Obviously, David Ornstein, Fabrizio Romano have come in, the heavyweights, giving it a bit of credence. But he was the first one to mention it, to be fair to him. Now, he is just reiterating what he had said. Marmoush, Savinho and Cody Gakpo are all targets. Spurs would ideally like to make a triple swoop. Manchester City are seeking sales as they look to fund their own midfield revamp. Gakpo is currently the toughest of the 3 to negotiate, but that could change if Liverpool add attackers. And it does make sense that Liverpool and Gakpo is the hardest one to negotiate because at the front, Liverpool are quite depleted at the moment. They've already not got a lot of depth at the front. So it makes sense that they obviously want to bring in a Barcola, a somebody ahead of letting Gakpo go. They're not close to Gakpo leaving. They're close to not having somebody in that position if he goes. So it makes sense. City need the money. They've spent 116 on Elliot Anderson. They're probably going to have to do another couple of big expenditures in order to try and bolster what they've got, which is not a lot. They're looking pretty threadbare in the midfield and on the wings as well. So it makes complete sense that City are happier to sell because they need the money more than maybe they need the players. Savinho was on the sideline anyway. Marmoush is never going to play ahead of Haaland. So those two things make sense. Liverpool need the player, probably more than the money. City don't really need to keep the players. They need the money to reinvest. So that makes sense. And this is the last one. So this is TalkSport, which is Alex Crook and Ben Jacobs, okay? But it's from the Man City Extra account, okay? Man City are prepared to sanction moves for both Savinho and Omar Marmoush if Tottenham are prepared to pay around £150 million. So, what do we think? What do we think of all of this? That's all the information and stories, right? What do we reckon? So we know Spurs definitely need attackers. Shem has been telling us all summer, Spurs need attackers, Spurs need attackers. Even when they were doing signing after signing after signing, Shem was telling us, Spurs need attackers, Spurs need attackers. They need people who can score goals, okay? So we know that Spurs need an attack. We also saw De Zerbi come out and say in one of his pre-season press conferences, they've only got 60% of their business done. They definitely have more business to do. They need more. So we know that they want attackers. We know the Savinho deal has sort of been talked about on and off throughout the summer transfer window. I speculated that they needed to bring in money because they'd already had some big expenditures. Now they've moved on some players. They've moved out Romero and a couple of others. It's looking like they've brought some of that money in. They also needed to make space in their squad because they were over the 25-player limit. So now that they've actually moved on some players, it makes space in their squad for players as well. I think for Spurs, I think it's great. Okay, whether you rate Savinho massively highly or not, it's better than what they've currently got. Marmoush is definitely better than anything they've got. And the only reason Marmoush isn't getting a proper chance at City is because Haaland. And I don't think we can really criticise anybody or judge anybody for being the backup to Haaland. Do you know what I mean? I think all of our strikers would be the backup to Haaland. So it's very hard to judge Marmoush one way or the other without actually seeing him properly as a first-team striker. So I think the moves themselves, getting the players in that position, whether I rate Savinho or not, whether you rate Savinho or not, and I have seen mixed sort of opinions online about that. He's super good. No, he's not. City haven't got the best out of him. That's because he's terrible. He wasn't used properly. He didn't get a run of games. He didn't get a run because he wasn't earning it. The fight continues. But whether you rate him or not, he's a player that Spurs rate, that Spurs have wanted for the whole summer. And that definitely adds in an area where they're currently in trouble. So I think to get both of them in, I think is a really good idea, particularly Marmoush. I think would be a fantastic idea for Spurs. £150 million. Well, the kind of rumours were, the stories floating around Savinho was 60. So that would mean that they're rating Omar Marmoush at £90 million, which feels a bit crazy. So I think the signings themselves, I think are quite good. I think that if they could get both of those players, I think that's brilliant. If they get Gakpo on top of that, if they got all three of the players that they're currently linked to, that would be fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. They would have had the best window of any club, hands down, when you look at the 6 players they've already brought in. Okay? But £150 million, even in this overinflated window, feels insane. That feels absolutely insane. Because, yes, I think Marmoush is quite good, but at the end of the day, he's our backup striker who's not really getting minutes and who is himself open to the move because of the fact that he's not getting any minutes. And they don't rate Savinho because they've been more than happy to sell him all summer. So it feels quite overpriced. I think it depends if they're able to get that price down, Spurs. And I think the problem is with Spurs, for most of the deals this summer, the ones they've paid for, because obviously they got Robertson and Senesi on a free, the deals they have paid for, they've just paid. So Mateus Fernandes, 85 million, like he's just not an 85 million pound player. So they have now themselves set a precedence of overpaying if they feel that they need the player. They don't mind what the price is. If they need the player, they'll pay for it. And City often sell their players for fees that would be considered inflated, even before this inflated transfer window. And obviously, if the links from City to Enzo are real, if there's a possibility they're going to try and go in from after the Chelsea deadline has expired, if they're then going to pay for Buadi, and they've already paid for Elliot Anderson, like, so Elliot Anderson, depending on reports, let's say 116, right? And then Buadi, 100, so that's 216. And then Enzo, if they do go for him, is what, 120? So that's like 336. You're looking at about 340 maybe. 330, 340 just on 3 players. So they do need to bring money in, massive money, to do what they want to do. And that's only their midfield. They also probably do need players on their wings, particularly on the left wing, where Doku's injured. Grealish, there's talks of Grealish, Everton again. I don't know what's going to happen there. Even at that, he's probably not a starter when he's only coming back from a loan at Everton and a serious injury. Kel said yesterday on Footy Judge Mo that Semenyo's actually better off the left, in her opinion, which leaves them with nobody on the right other than that young chap, Makedo. So as well as these midfielders, they're also going to need somebody on the wing to genuinely actually challenge. So they need to bring money in because they're spending so much. They're spending so much money. It's whether Spurs feel that overpaying for these players is worth it in where it might bring them in the league next season. If this 150 million is the difference between 12th and 7th or 7th and 4th, they may feel that it's worth it because they're not just paying for the players, they're paying for what the players are going to bring them, if that makes sense. But let me see what you guys are saying about it so far. All Box Stuff says Leeds need another forward. I'd take Haaland on a free. I mean, if he's free, how could you say no? Wild Thing is in the house. Hello to Wild Thing, who says, I suppose it's an upgrade. Jay Holton in the house as well. Hello to Jay. Yes, Mohammed. Premier League predictions this evening, 7 p.m. That's why I'm testing out the StreamYard. That's why I'm not on OBS today. I am testing out the StreamYard because I need to make sure it's going to work for me and Kai to be able to do the show together. So I'm testing it right this lunchtime. Jay also says, as an Arsenal fan, I still think Arsenal win the league, but I'm more scared of Chelsea and Man United than Man City. I think United and Chelsea have a good chance of a title charge and Leeds for Europe. Great shout from Jay. So I agree with you. I think Arsenal will win the league. I also think Chelsea are a threat to you. United, I don't know. So if we get Baleba over the line and we get a left back, I don't care if it's Lewis Hall. I'd actually prefer David Raum, personally. And then if we magically manage to move Xerxes on and brought in another striker, I think we're a massive threat. If we get Baleba and a left back without a striker, I still think we're in decent nick. If we get Baleba and nobody else, we start to fall off a little bit. So it's what we think that United will actually do. Look, he's saying that he would push for David Raum or Anthony Robinson once Baleba is over the line. So we're kind of on the same page there. Random in the house. Random with a new profiler. I'm sure that's a new profiler, Random. Welcome to the chat. Nice to see you, my dear. What are we thinking, people, on this deal? Omar Marmoush, Savinho, Gakpo, the price. Good, bad, likely to happen. How much difference does it make for Spurs? What are our thoughts on that? Positive, not so positive? Random says nobody is scared of Chelsea and United. Liverpool and City have more of a chance against Arsenal. Well, you can't say nobody, Random. Let's not tell lies, because obviously somebody has just said they are. So we can't say nobody. You can say that you're not, but you can't say nobody because it's just not true. I could say nobody's afraid of Liverpool. It's not true. I mean, a lot of people might not be, but can't say nobody. It's a cheap imitation, says Random Idiot. So for those that don't know, we have Random Idiot and Random Guy. I thought I knew you from another channel, Random Guy. I thought I'd seen you in chats elsewhere, but maybe I haven't. Maybe I'm imagining it. It's your first chat in this live, but yeah, I thought I'd seen you elsewhere. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I didn't. There's a lot of random people on the internet. Rob says, hi, other random. Yeah, I'm going to have to actually start calling you both by your full names now. It's ridiculous. Random A and Random B. We have two randoms. Well, I mean, randoms at Teacup Castle. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? It's the kind of place you would find randoms. But look, we will see what happens with that. I think it will be a good move for Spurs. I think they should try and get that price knocked down, but I think it's a good move for Spurs. I'm not certain it's a fantastic move for City, because I think while they do need money to spend on the players they want to bring in, which are all £100 million players so far, I do think they're damaging their own depth, particularly with Marmoush. I know he's behind Haaland, and I understand. Even Haaland, I think they need a backup of sorts. I don't think you can just have Haaland. And I wouldn't wish this on any player, no matter who they play for. But what happens if there's a freak incident and Haaland gets injured? What do they do? Do you know what I mean? I just think I understand Marmoush wanting to leave. I certainly understand Spurs wanting Marmoush. City, I just think they need to be careful, because they're already a little bit decimated in terms of depth and strength. They need to be careful with what they're doing. Although, to be fair, that's probably why they're pointing to, well, he's super expensive, because it leaves us a lot weaker. So maybe, we shall see. But another interesting one, this was reported by Fabrizio on his YouTube channel, but again, I'm taking it from City Extra. Enzo Maresca has been asking Man City to sign Enzo Fernandez for weeks and weeks. Now, to be fair, we have heard about this right at the start of the summer. Enzo was linked to City. Before he was linked to Madrid, he was linked to City, then Madrid. Then Madrid said publicly, we don't want you. And then it's gone back to Man City again. We obviously know Enzo and Enzo have the connection. Enzo squared have the connection. They work well together. They really like each other. There's a lot of respect there. We had the Friday deadline. The Friday deadline passed. Nothing happened. We know that City sort of think 120 is a bit expensive. We know maybe things have come to an end at Chelsea. He clearly wants out, and that's put a lot of their fan base off. Some of the antics at the World Cup, some of the quotes, the ill-advised things that he has said in interviews. Enzo Fernandez, I've turned a lot of the Chelsea fans against him. I think there's a strong possibility it could get a little toxic if he stays there in the season. I don't think it's good for Chelsea to keep him. I think Chelsea should be selling him. Whether they should sell him to Man City is a whole different conversation. But I do think it's probably advisable for Chelsea to be trying to move him along. I don't think they should be trying to strengthen Man City, because I think Chelsea and Man City are going to be competing for the same positions this season. But if City are the only ones that can pay for him, and they should move him on, they might not have much of a choice. You know, I think if they had the option to sell him to Madrid or City, they'd probably sell him to Madrid. Do you know what I mean? But if they don't have any other option, I do think it's advisable for them to move him along, because I just think that's toxicity waiting to happen. Whether it's a good idea for City to sign him, I don't think so. I don't think he is what City needs, personally. I don't think he adds as much as what a 120 million price tag would expect you to add, I don't think he's the right move for City. They absolutely need midfielders. If I was City, I would prefer Wharton. I think Wharton's a better player. I know they want Alex Scott as well, and Arsenal wanted Alex Scott, and United wanted Alex Scott. Based on what Bournemouth have said, Alex Scott is absolutely 1,000,000% not for sale, and Bournemouth have not really sold any of their key players this summer. I know Kruppi got injured, but that's an injury. They haven't sold him. And they have been adamant since the beginning that whether he signs a new contract or not, Alex Scott is absolutely 100% not for sale. Now, that may change if a massive bid was sent in. So United have said, right, fairs, we're not going to pay massively just to get a player that you don't want to sell. Arsenal have clearly had the same idea. They've walked away from a number of deals, including Tonali, because they didn't want to overpay just to get the player. So it may be that United and Arsenal have walked away because the price that Alex Scott would be for sale at is not a price they were willing to pay. Manchester City are generally happier to pay the bigger prices if they feel the player is worth it. So if it's a case that they decide that Alex Scott would be better than Enzo for what they're trying to build, I think that's unlikely given Enzo pushing for Fernandes. Maybe they would be happy to pay a fee that would suddenly make him available for sale by Bournemouth. I don't think so, just based on what the news is being reported about what Maresca wants. If Wharton was available, and it was put out there by the media near the start of the summer that Wharton would also be a £100 million player, but there might be a bit more room for negotiation there around Wharton. So if they were able to get Wharton for a reasonable price, probably overinflated because of the window, but reasonable, I think he would be a better option for City than Enzo Fernandez. What will be interesting to see is how this plays out. Because if Enzo Maresca has been asking for Fernandes for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and City have not really done anything about it, they purposely missed the deadline, they don't seem all that pushed on getting them. There's a lot of noise, but there's been nothing really reported that City have made moves. I haven't seen anything of City making active moves, taking actions to get Enzo Fernandez. What I've seen is Maresca would like him. They're losing a big midfielder and Enzo Fernandez is available. Like, I've seen Chelsea would be happy to sell him for 120. I've seen loads of different things. I've not actually seen, and maybe they're right there and I've missed them, I've not actually seen any report that sort of said City really want Enzo Fernandez and they're actively trying to get him. I've seen nothing at all that would indicate that to me. So I feel like there's a lot of noise around Enzo Fernandez to City. I think a lot of that noise might be coming from Enzo Fernandez's camp, might be coming from Chelsea, may even be coming from Enzo Maresca. We don't know. But none of it seems to be coming from City, which I do find interesting. Maybe they'll get him in the end. Maybe Enzo Maresca will get his own way. But I think what happens here is an indication of just how much sway Enzo Maresca has. Because if they get Enzo Fernandez, I do think that will be because Maresca has pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. Eventually, everybody would have to sign off on it. So it would be a team decision. But I think it would have happened because Enzo Maresca was pushing for it. I don't think City go for Fernandes off their own back if Maresca's not there pushing for it. So I'll actually be very interested to see how that plays out. I think moving him off the books is a great idea for Chelsea. City is maybe questionable, but they're the only horse in the race potentially at the minute. I think it's a bad idea for City, if I'm honest. But we'll see. I think Wharton would be better. I'm just watching. I'm watching and waiting to see what might fall out of the tree from these rumours. Paige has joined us. Hello to lovely Paige. Tottenham Therapy in the house. Hello to Tottenham Therapy. Jay Holton has got 2 hot takes, not 1 but 2. Leeds United and Everton to make the Europa League and Nottingham Forest to make the Conference League. They're interesting. I'm not saying anything because no spoilers for the show later, so I'm not giving my opinion on that. But I think definitely on the Leeds one, you're going to have all boxed up support in there. Leeds and Everton to make Europa League and Nottingham Forest to make the Conference League, says Jay Holton. Interesting. What do we think of those guys? How hot are those takes? Hot or not? All boxed up. As a Leeds fan, I'm scared of no one. All boxed up says, on transfers, all the big clubs on the same narrow merry-go-round with the same names involved repeatedly does my bloody head in, especially when it's all long-winded and nout gets done for ages. To be fair, I'm going to actually stick up for my club here. We got off the carousel at the start of the summer. So we were in the Elliot Anderson thing and we left. We were in the Mateus Fernandes thing for too long, to be fair on that one, but we did then leave. We were initially linked to Tonali, said no. Nobody saw us getting Tielemans. I don't even think we saw us getting Tielemans. Definitely Santos come out of the blue. And if this Baleba thing happens, that's arguable. I don't think it's long-winded because we've not actively been in from this summer until yesterday. So I don't find that as long-winded, but I can understand how it could be argued that way. But nobody else is in from, so it's not the same names as other teams. But I take your point in a general sense, but I do have to stick up for my club there. Nobody else was in for Tielemans or Santos. Nobody, and they happened like lightning. So sticking up for United here. I don't often do that. I don't often these days stick up for United. Long gone are the days at the start of the transfer window where I was like, let's think positive. That didn't last very long. But I have to stick up for them. Our signings have not been predictable. And actually, we didn't go for Baleba when everyone thought we would. We waited till he was injured. Everybody went the deals off. And then we went for him. So I do think we've been a little bit unpredictable in this transfer window. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we've certainly been unpredictable. Oh. All Vox stuff is feeling so positive about this season. I love it for you. Not for Leeds, but I love it for you, All Vox stuff. Speaking of United, since we've brought them up organically, this is also from Fabrizio Romano. Man United are not done yet in the market. For a left back, let's see what happens up front. If Xerxes leaves, so there could be two more signings after Baleba for Manchester United. One left back, almost guaranteed, according to Fabrizio Romano. And then one more striker, only if Xerxes leaves. So according to Fabrizio, based on likelihood and what he's hearing, Baleba happening, left back almost guaranteed, striker only if Xerxes leaves. About the striker Xerxes thing, we've always known that was only going to happen if Xerxes left. We were told that, we knew that, that's not new. Left back almost guaranteed is quite new. Because we have been told throughout the summer that this summer is for the midfield and next summer is for the defence. And the Lewis Hall rumours really, I feel personally, were like more linked by content creators and internet people than actual links. Any reporters that mentioned Lewis Hall and Man United specifically said that Man United admire Lewis Hall. Man United like Lewis Hall. Man United are impressed by Lewis Hall. I haven't actually seen anybody ever at any point in the summer report that Man United are in for Lewis Hall. At any point. We like him. Okay, we like loads of players. I like the lottery. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't really get you what you're liking. So the fact that we would be a left back almost guaranteed, I think is sensational news. I do not believe that left back is going to be Lewis Hall. I think if it happens, maybe this is wishful thinking because this is who I would prefer, it's going to be David Raum. I think that's almost guaranteed is David Raum, personally. Now, maybe it's not. Maybe it's somebody else that we've never heard of. Who knows with Man United? But that actually, if Fabrizio is right, and that is an if, because he has said could. There could be two more. So left back almost guaranteed, striker only if Xerxes leaves. So he's kind of, I suppose, reinforcing information that was somewhat available to us anyway. So the Belabit thing everybody knows about, the striker only if Xerxes leaves everybody knows about, left back almost guaranteed. I like the sound of that. I think what we need to be careful about is who the left back is. Just because he says left back almost guaranteed does not mean, because you'll see this, Man United are buying Lewis Hall. That's not what that means. That's not what he said. He said left back, a left back, an unspecified, unnamed left back, almost guaranteed. Just be careful out there. He has not said Lewis Hall almost guaranteed, because I guarantee you, that's what's going to be said in some circles of the internet. He said a left back. We will see. Lucky is saying Anthony Robinson. Anthony Robinson was one of those names that was sort of in the background, mentioned, never really sort of to the fore. So that could be a shout, Lucky. Anthony Robinson to Man United could absolutely be a shout. I don't know, but it's certainly been mentioned here and there, sort of loosely, just never quite at the front of the queue. So again, total possibility. Total possibility. Flossie says, apparently Hall wants United, which I can't find anywhere. He's our only left back. I cannot see us letting him go this late. We have a game at the weekend. I agree. I think if it was going to happen, it would have needed to happen way earlier in the window. We looked at your defence the other day. It's not exactly flush. As you say, he's your only left back. I genuinely, if Man United got Lewis Hall over the line, even though he wouldn't be my number one choice of player, I would actually be genuinely very impressed by that, because I don't think they can do it. I don't think they can. I'm not necessarily convinced the player does want to come. I definitely know Newcastle don't want to sell. There's nobody else that can play in his position. We're days away from the start of the season. I don't see it at all whatsoever. At all. Genuinely, there's no part of me that thinks it happens. If it happens, I will have to give Man United massive credit for doing something that I do not believe they're capable of doing. But we will see. If we don't get him, I'm not going to be devastated, because for the entire summer, I have repeatedly said, I don't think it's going to happen. So if it doesn't happen, what am I going to do? Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to be devastated that the thing I didn't think was going to happen didn't happen. I would like a left back, though. Left back would make me very happy. Let me see. Rose in the house. Rose says, Fabrizio did us the favour of translating the Belabit deal to euros, even though it was done between two UK-based clubs. Rose says, I know it's minor, but it winds me up. Well, he put the Elliot Anderson fee in pound, and he put the Konsa fee to Arsenal, I think it was, in pound as well. Man United, euro. Like, it is minor, but it's unnecessary. He would have actually had to make more effort to exchange it into euros than to just post what it was in pound. He's actually taken the effort to go and do the exchange rate to be able to post it in euros. Like, he's taken an extra step to do that, because both sides will have had it in pounds. So for him to change it to euros, he's actively gone to do that. So yeah, I agree with that. It winds me up too. Something silly, but just unnecessary. Surreal in the house. Hello to Surreal, who says, good afternoon to Lou and the chat. So far, I give Spurs window 6 out of 10. If they swoop for those 3 players, that becomes a 9 out of 10 window. I actually would go to 10 nearly. Really and truly, if you get all 3 of them, I think you could almost go to 10, maybe 9, maybe you need somebody more like, but I would agree with that sentiment. 6 out of 10 at the minute, and then a massive jump if they get all 3. Totally agree. Let me see. Let me go forward. What else are you guys saying? Rob can't see Hall happening either. Agreed. Paige went to get coffee, but she's back now. Panic over. Okie dokes. So Also on United, because I'm trying to find positives. Can't be too negative these days, guys. But Fabrizio has put it out there that Como are advancing in talks to sign Willy Cambuala as a new centre-back from Villarreal. Willy Cambuala is actually the young centre-back that we mentioned on one of the watch-alongs that I said I thought we should have kept. I really liked him. But anyway, so Como want to sign him from Villarreal. Negotiations are moving fast as Cambuala is a priority target for Como. Man United have a substantial sell-on clause. So if this happens, so Osasuna are in the race to sign him. For Como to beat Osasuna, they'll have to outbid Osasuna. And Man United will get a big old proportion of that. So like what we did, Mason Greenwood, we got a proportion of that. We had a sell-on for another one of our players recently as well. Then we're going to have a sell-on for Cambuala, depending on where he ends up. It looks like now, if Baleba comes in, Toby Collier is looking at a permanent deal with West Brom. That I would have liked to see him get a chance in the first team. However, if we're actually bringing other people in that position, and we're going to get a reasonable fee from him, I can't really complain because that's just personal preference. I would have kept him. I think he's good enough to get a chance. But if we get a couple of million for him, so if we get a few million for Toby, we get a few million from the Cambuala sell-on, we've got some money in from Mason Greenwood. I like this, guys, because we're actually being intelligent. We're not very good at selling. So we're putting in sell-on clauses and sending these players to other teams who are better at selling and then just taking a proportion of the sell-on. So we're getting an initial fee and a sell-on. So I think this is a good tactic from United, who are terrible at selling. So I like it. And every few million into the kitty counts. And you have to hope that it goes towards like more players. So if we get the money in for Cambuala, if we get the few quid in for Collier, then maybe that goes towards this left back that we're getting. Do you know what I mean? So good news. I like it. I mean, I have to make the best of things the way they are at the minute. If Man United can't sell, put in sell-on clauses and sell them to clubs that can sell. Works. It works for us. You got Rose says, I would like it if Collier got a buyback clause like VTech did, but I think they are done with him. I think they're done with him. I would like a buyback clause. I think he's good. I really would have liked to see him be given a chance. However, if we're going to bring in Baleba, we've brought in Tielemans, we've brought in Santos, we've got Menu. I think, look, I would have preferred to keep Collier, give him a chance, but I can't complain if we're replacing him. If we were selling him and not bringing in another midfielder, I'd be furious. If we're bringing in another player and the club just don't seem interested in giving him a shout, then look, but I would have liked to buy back as well. I agree. I agree. But the club just don't, for whatever reason, the club just really don't seem to rate him. Only time will tell. All Boxed Up says, I think Collier is off clean away. Like better off? Probably. If we're not giving him a chance, if we're not going to give him an opportunity, then he is better off to potter on and go somewhere that will actually value him and give him the opportunity. But like Cambuala was another one. I would have liked to keep Cambuala. I thought he was quite a good player. He would have been one coming through alongside Yoro and Aiden Heaven, given the situation we have at centre-back at the minute at the club. He's another one I kind of wish we had kept, but we didn't. I don't always agree with the club's decisions. I don't. Sometimes I think they make silly decisions. But look, the fact is, these are the decisions they're making. So if we're going to get a bit of money in for it and we're going to replace those players, I just have to suck it up a little bit. But it is unfortunate. All Boxed Up rates him. I rate him completely. And I think he's going to have a blinder at West Ham and everyone's going to go, why did we sell him? It's going to be James Garner all over again. Why did we sell him for? Look at how good he's doing now he's left United, and it's going to be because we just didn't give him a chance. It's just going to be because we didn't give him a chance, which is sad to see. But moving on. We're on to Chelsea next, guys. We've loads to get through, and we've to get through as much of it as we can because we're not going to have time for it this evening. And by tomorrow, the rate that the here we goes are happening, there'll be more here we go, so we won't get the chance. So we have to get through as much of this as possible. So we're on to Chelsea. Chelsea next. Lyle Thomas, who is the senior football editor at Sky Sports. Lyle's pretty all right. And says, exclusive, Aston Villa have interest in Tosin at Chelsea as one of their potential replacement options for Ezri Konsa, who looks Arsenal bound. So, let me see. What I want to go to, guys, is where is our Chelsea list? Feels like 6 lifetimes ago since we did the Chelsea list because that was the first one. And we've done a lot since. So at the time, they needed to move on 17 players to get down to the 25-man squad. One of the ones that we said we thought they would move on was Tosin. We put Tosin on our list. And it looks like they agree and that there's potential that he's going to move to Aston Villa. Aston Villa are absolutely ravaged. They are like a shell of a starting 11. They absolutely 100% need a starting centre-back or a centre-back. They've only got 3. Konsa to Arsenal, they've only got 3. So to bring in a centre-back is essential. Tosin, I don't know. How much do you rate him? How much do you not? Is he better than what they've got? It makes sense for Chelsea. Chelsea need to move him along. We obviously decided at the time he was one of the ones that could be moved along. They, at Aston Villa, need a centre-back. I mean, I don't really know how much I can say about it. Like, Rose says Tosin is young, but I'm not sure how good he is skill-wise. Well, considering that the other 3 they have are basically at pension age for football terms, getting somebody that's a little bit younger in probably isn't a bad shout either. So they need somebody in. 100% because they've only got 3 as it stands. And if he's a little younger than what they've already got, he potentially brings things that the other 3 can't. I don't think it's crazy bad. I mean, I don't watch loads of Tosin like all the time, so I couldn't swear. I couldn't swear to how good he's going to be or how bad he's going to be, but I don't think it sounds like a terrible idea. They need a centre-back. There's a centre-back available. He's drastically younger than what they've already got. It seems like a reasonable move. Depending on what the price is going to be, it seems like a somewhat reasonable move. Also, obviously, they've had previous interactions this summer. So we will see how that works out. I want to see what a price looks like. Because they need to not be paying a fortune for him. I think it's fine, good idea to get him. They need to not be paying a fortune for him because that would be ridiculous. I feel a bit like that sometimes, Paige, because even though like I do the channel, I don't know everything about every player. Like I'm like that. I'm just a fan. I just watch the football. So like Paige says, I don't look into players outside my clubs. I feel like I can't speak so much on it. Watch alongs, I'm able to react in the moment. Yeah, because you can watch a match and say, oh, he's been good this match, bad this match. And obviously the more matches you watch of a player, you start to see their pattern, what they play like more often than not. So I would agree with you. I don't have a particularly strong opinion on Tosin as a player. As a deal, without knowing a fee, it seems like a good idea for Villa. It seems like a good idea for Chelsea because they have to move people along anyway. I do think a lot of it is fee dependent. Yeah, we mentioned that huge. The bid for Watkins. So we looked at that yesterday. We said Konsa goes, which leaves them 3 at the back. There's a link for their winger, Leon Bailey on the wing. He's linked to Ajax, and Watkins is potentially linked away as well, which would leave them completely decimated. Completely and utterly decimated. They would have no wingers bar Garnacho and a young man like that's 18 years old. It would leave them completely decimated up front. Across the front, they would be, I think, just beyond repair. I agree, Flossie. Villa are getting absolutely ransacked. Like, and the amount of people that were talking about Newcastle lost Gordon, Tonali, Bruno G. That's 3 players. They've lost 3 players. They've brought in like 6 or 7. I think it might be 7. Villa have been decimated. They've lost everybody, and they're potentially going to lose what's left. I think Villa, because Newcastle and Villa seem to be getting grouped together a lot at the minute, but I think the amount of people that are just dancing all over Newcastle, Aston Villa are going to be in the Champions League next season. They don't have 1 game a week, and I don't even know if they've got a skeleton of a squad at this point. I think their skeleton is missing some bones. I think Villa, like, Unai Emery is a good manager at getting more from less. He's not a miracle worker. He can't get more from nothing. So I think Villa are in so much trouble. And like, it's so flying under the radar. And like that, yeah, Newcastle are the ones in a mess. I just don't think that's the case. I think Newcastle might end up in a better position than they were in before. They've only lost 3 players. 3. Like, that's it. 3. Villa have lost almost everybody. They have. As it stands, they've got 3 centre-backs unless they get Tosin. I don't know how it's flying under the radar. Given the amount of stick that Newcastle got, I don't understand why Aston Villa are flying so under the radar. Aston Villa finished fourth last season. They're in the Champions League this season. Unai Emery is considered one of the biggest coaches around. The fact that they've been decimated has been completely ignored. But for weeks and weeks, Newcastle was the headline of everybody's shows, like taking the mickey. They've lost 3 players. They've bought 6 or 7, and they've got a new manager in. And they've only got 1 game a week. I just don't understand how that works. Villa are in a much worse position, having started from a much higher place with more expectation, and that's just being ignored. It just actually baffles my mind. Ashraf in the house. Big up to Ashraf. For anybody who doesn't watch Footy Judge Mo, Ashraf is actually, you can't tell by this comment, to be fair, but Ashraf is actually one of the more logical thinkers on the Footy Judge Mo channel. I mean, he hides it well from this comment, but he actually is. I don't mind Ashraf. So if you're not subbed to Ashraf, particularly if you're an Arsenal fan, do get subbed to Ashraf. He's lovely. He's hiding it well, but he's lovely. All boxed up saying Villa have to sell their big ticket items. My thing would be, and I've seen a lot of this, and we're off on a tangent here, but I'm interested in this topic. I've seen a lot of talk. You know, Kieran Maguire, Flossie has mentioned it. I've seen all over X, other people talking about this, you know, that the financial rules, they favour the big clubs. The big clubs get away with murder. They can do whatever they want. And the likes of Villa and Newcastle just get raided and pour them. And I'm not going to argue one way or the other about the financial rules, because I'll be honest, I'm not informed enough on them to understand how they work to have a proper informed opinion. So I'm just not going to say. Kieran Maguire is literally a finance expert, so I'll take his word for it. What I will say, though, is if we're going to keep, and everybody is, boxing Newcastle and Aston Villa together, who are both in a similar situation, who are both kind of outside the big teams, who are getting ravaged and all their stuff stolen, and are kind of would be able to do better if they weren't picked on by the rules. Why are Newcastle handling the situation so much better than Villa? If they're both in the same, and they both have these restrictions from UEFA, they're both currently under a plan with UEFA, they're in very similar situations. How is it that Villa have been left with a shell of a team, but Newcastle have somehow managed to not fall into that trap, because Newcastle's squad is nowhere near, it's not even close to as threadbare as Aston Villa's. Aston Villa, right? Let us do this, because I honestly don't understand. I get if people don't agree with the way the financial rules work, that's fine. But both of these clubs are in the same situation. And how Newcastle is dealing with it is so much better. Flossie says, I think Villa's restrictions are stronger. Maybe. I think yous were in the minor category. So maybe. But I also think yous are maybe just genuinely dealing with it better. I think yous lost Isak, which yous didn't want to do. And then you've lost Gordon, Bruno G, your captain, Tonali, your entire midfield, your starting left winger. But you have managed, and your manager, in the middle of pre-season, right? But you've still managed to bring in 7, I think it's 7 now, new players, a good, by all accounts, new manager. I feel like you've spent your money well. Do you know what I mean? Yous are in a difficult position as well, but I feel like what you've done with those circumstances, I feel is better. I think you've reacted better. I think you've used the funds better. So Villa have got absolutely enormous money. The money they've brought in from their sales is huge. But I don't feel like they're reinvesting it in the same way that Newcastle have. Now, maybe in the next few days or between now and the end of the window, they're going to do a madness. They're going to do something really special. They've got stuff in the pipeline. It's all going to happen. Maybe. I don't know if I believe it, though. And I know Unai Emery's a good manager. I know Unai Emery can get more from less. But bloody hell, give him something. Give him something. Do you know what I mean? Let me see. What are you saying? Rose says, Newcastle seemed to hit a wall with where their last coach and player core could carry them. They legit did amazing with what they got for their sold players. I will say they did want to add to those players for a few years and were capped out. Yeah, and that's it. It's nobody's saying it's a sensational position to be in or it's super easy. I just think with similar circumstances, Newcastle have done more. I think they've reacted better, essentially. Ollie says, Aston Villa have 200 million to spend now, though. Emery can actually build a team for them. But Ollie, will they? Will they let him build a team? Will they spend that money for him? That's if they do, and they bring in some really intelligent signings, I'll give them all the prop and praise. At the minute, I'm not seeing that. I have given Newcastle so much credit and so much praise this summer for the way they've moved in a restricted situation. I don't see Villa making them moves. They do have money. We've given them money. We give them money for Tielemans. They've got money for Rodgers. They're going to get money for Konsa. They do have money because they've been decimated. So they've sold players, which means they've got money. Digne, they got money for him. I just think they're not using the money at all. They don't seem to be buying anybody with all this money. So even though they've got restrictions, the restriction is you can't buy anybody, which seems to be the tactic they're taking, because the only person they've bought is Garnacho, isn't it? Yeah, I think they need to do more. So I think yes, they can say, look, we feel a little bit handicapped by the financial rules compared to the traditionally big clubs. But they certainly don't, I think, have an advantage over Newcastle. And I don't think they're even doing what Newcastle's doing. So I think if they fall off this season, I feel like the excuse is going to be, oh, well, we were raided by the big clubs, the financial restrictions pick on us, there was nothing we could do. And I don't think that's true. If Newcastle end up having a terrible season, I think they would be within their rights to say, look, we did the best we could in the situation we were in, but the restrictions just absolutely destroyed us. We had so little room to maneuver. I would say, okay, fairs. It might not be the only factor, by the way, because I think if your board had kind of not waited until this last minute to just revamp everything all at the same time, it would be easier. But I do think that would be a fair argument to make. For Villa, though, I just feel like, could they be doing more? It's not that the financial restrictions don't have any impact. Obviously they do. It would be silly to think otherwise. But are they doing as much as they can? And I don't know if they are. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Ashraf says, yes, I think their board itself made some big blunders in the last few years. That's what I mean. All Boxed Up says Villa has suffered for years, and also says, in comparison, Newcastle failed in Europe and the same in the Prem, compared with Villa, who were fourth in the Prem and in the Champions League through winning in the Europa League too, but financial restraints muck them up. So I think that's fair. So Newcastle seem to be handling it better this summer, but Villa have achieved much more. So should they be in a similar position to Newcastle? That's a good argument. Should they be in a similar position with Newcastle not getting into Europe at all? I think Newcastle were 12th. But so Newcastle finished 12th. Villa won the Europa League and finished 4th in the Prem. Should they be in a similar position? I think that's a fair argument. Probably not. On the face of that, no, they shouldn't be in a similar position. Villa should be able to spend more. Can they do more in their current circumstances? I think maybe. But should they be in the same circumstances? That I think is a great argument. Really, really good argument, All Boxed Up, because probably not. No, their situation shouldn't be similar. I agree. Based on what they've achieved, Villa, by rights, you would think should be able to spend more. I think that's a good point. I have nothing to add. Well done. Let me see. No, I got that. We've got that. Ashraf says, I think Howe should have left earlier. They should have let Isak go earlier and secured Ekitike, and also added more young talented player from other leagues instead of chasing the top players. Well, to be fair, Ashraf, they have added this summer, they've added 6, about to be 7 new players. So just, guys, for those who, I keep saying 7, they've signed 6, and according to Fabrizio Romano, they have agreed to sell Usman Diabate from Gençlerbirliği from Turkey. He's an 18-year-old midfielder. So he'll be their 7th. At the moment, they've got 6. All 6 of them are young, kind of 20 to 24 years of age. They've picked up for 30 to 40 million, promising young, good players. So I think they have done that this summer. I agree about Eddie Howe. Yes, Newcastle do have a new manager, Prodigy. They do. Yessel is his name. Did very well previously in all of his posts. Really, really successful in the Austrian Bundesliga. Followed a similar path, and similar path to Oliver Glasner. Was also highly decorated in Asia as well. And I know the answer to this is, oh, but he never done it in the Premier League. Sorry, guys. You can't have work experience before you've got a job. Do you know when you're like 16, 17, you're looking for your first job and they're like, must have 2 years of experience. And like, how do you ever get your first job if you need experience for every job? So, okay, he doesn't have Premier League experience, but anybody new that's coming into the Premier League doesn't have Premier League experience. He can't have experience in something he's never done before. So I just don't think we can hold that against him. In the leagues he has been in, he has performed well, consistently. He's highly decorated in all of the leagues that he has operated in. So we don't know if he's going to do well in the Premier League. But we also don't know. I mean, the same thing has been said this summer about Areola. Areola is Premier League proven. He did wonders with Bournemouth. He's gone to Liverpool and everyone's gone, well, he's never done it at a club the size of Liverpool before. Can he actually do it? I mean, we don't know. That's kind of the point. That's kind of the point. We don't know because he's never done it before, guys. You can't hold it against somebody that they've never done the job that they're doing before. So somebody that comes in from outside the Premier League, having never done it in the Premier League, it's not like a criticism. Like, it's a statement of fact, but it doesn't, you can't really hold it against them. Iraola, who's never managed a big club before, you can't really hold that against him because there's nothing to say he can't. It's 50-50. So I don't think you can use that as a downside against, like, you can't get work experience before you've worked. So I don't think you can hold that against somebody. And I know that's not what you said, but I see it on the internet and it really drives me crazy. So he looks very good, the manager they've brought in. And I think he brings a bit of fresh life after the reign of Eddie Howe. I actually feel like, and this is an impression, I feel like before Newcastle felt quite tired. Eddie Howe felt tired. It felt past its sell-by date. They had, as I keep mentioning, the oldest average age of squads last season in the Premier League. Some of their players wanted out. You had the whole stuff with Tonali. There's a whole lot of different things. Now what they've got is a young, new, like, decorated manager, fresh, full of energy, loads of ideas. They've got fresh, new, young, talented players, loads of energy. I feel like they've gone from quite a tired, sort of exhausted club to kind of a fresh, exciting, let's see what happens club. I think that can only be a good thing. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm feeling the positivity for them. Paige says, I like managers that learn the ropes, so to speak, before they go to a big league. Yeah, I think it's very advisable. Huge says, I do think people are holding Newcastle's bad transfer window last summer against them this summer. Great point by Huge. Really good point. All Boxed Up says, even Leeds have massive backing. 49ers enterprise with £5.3 billion, but can't use the finances as they wish. Newcastle have the richest backers, but can't spend. Yeah. And that's the thing. Look, I think a lot of people are sort of in agreement that, look, the financial rules feel a little skewed. As I said, I don't know enough about them to have a strong opinion, so I'm willing to go with what people say on that. But I think within the restrictions placed on you, you can make better decisions. And I feel like Newcastle are making better decisions than Aston Villa right now. If Aston Villa go and get a couple of good players for decent prices, I'll give them all the credit. But at the minute, I just don't think they are. I don't think they're moving fast enough either. Prodigy says Newcastle needed a reset. Completely agree. They needed a reset. They've got the reset. I actually think this might be the best thing that's happened to them in years, because even if it doesn't happen this season, because it can take time to implement that level of change effectively, I think genuinely it could be one of the best things that's happened to Newcastle. Really, I think in the next couple of years, Newcastle are on an upward trajectory. I completely believe that. We will see. We could get to next summer and everyone's going to be like, what were you waffling about, you mad spoon? But guys, we went off on a tangent, but you know what? It was a really interesting tangent. Really, really enjoyed that conversation. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for getting involved, for giving your opinions, your thoughts, for giving me things to talk about, for subscribing and just being here, and for dropping your like, hopefully. If you're new, please do subscribe. We will be back this evening, I believe 7 o'clock, but keep an eye on the notifications. I need to double check with Kai 100%. Premier League prediction show. Lou and Kai back in town this evening. I am so looking forward to it, guys. I am so excited for this one. Do not miss it. It's going to be a good one. Go enjoy your afternoon, and I will talk to you all later.